And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest edition of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. A look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. I'm also one of your co-hosts on this program. I am joined this week, as I am every week, by my co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement consultant for MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how goes it?
It goes great, Rich. I'm really seriously, appreciating the concept of sequestering myself through all the madness that's going on right now.
Yeah, well, hey, tell me about it. I'm, as regular viewers know, I'm based in Seattle. I'm right here in ground zero, folks. And yeah, it is remarkable, isn't it, that we can these days. It used to be if you were self-sequestered or quarantined or whatever, you were just kind of cut off from the world. From a business standpoint, life goes on pretty much as normal for me because this is where I'm always working.
Yep. And me likewise, Rich. And you know what? Yes, events have been canceled that, I normally speak at, but guess what? Other opportunities have opened up for me to do a lot more online stuff. So, hey, who am I to complain? I don't have to travel and, touch people. So that works for me too.
So I will just quickly note that that makes both of us very fortunate, and there are a lot of other people who are less fortunate, and our thoughts go out to them. And obviously everybody needs to be taking the proper precautions to make sure that we kind of stop this thing in its tracks as soon as possible. But you know what? The IT industry marches forward, coronavirus or no coronavirus. And so let's dive into our top story this week, which actually kind of takes us back to something we spoke about in the 5-Minute Roundup in January, Eric. At that time, the folks at CRN reported a story about how security researchers at a company called Bishop Fox had found 8 vulnerabilities in ConnectWise Control, their remote access system. And those vulnerabilities had been studied and validated by the folks at Huntress Labs. ConnectWise went out, obviously, and corrected those problems. And as you and I talked about on the show at the time, this is not a ConnectWise issue. This is a managed services industry issue. Threat actors are targeting MSPs, because MSPs are a way into lots of end user systems. The easiest way to get at MSPs is through the management tools that they use. And so whether you're ConnectWise or Datto or Kaseya or SolarWinds or whoever, there are people out there right now who are looking for vulnerabilities in your systems. And that means that you're going to have to take security much more seriously in terms of product development. And so the news this week is about ConnectWise doing exactly that. And in fact, they have been doing that since January, around the time that this ConnectWise Control story broke. But what they announced this week is that they are expanding what they call their shift left strategy. And shift left is this concept in the product development world of building security into the product design and development process earlier, so at the left end of the project schedule. And so, since January, they've been giving their developers increased security training at ConnectWise. They adopted a whole new security architecture based on standards from an organization called OWASP and, very highly regarded standards. What they're announcing today is a number of additional controls they're putting in place, some of them now, some of them over the course of the coming months. So they are increasing their threat modeling at a very early stage in the development process. They're in a very conscious way looking at new features and trying to figure out what are ways that these features could potentially be put to evil use by an attacker, and evaluating the seriousness of that threat and making decisions about whether to include the feature or not, or how to mitigate that risk right at the beginning of the design process. They've adopted an automated tool. I don't know which one exactly. It's a third-party system, but it actually watches the developers as they're writing code. And if it sees a vulnerability that is in that code, it points it out. It makes some suggestions for ways that you could write this that might close that gap or mitigate that risk. They're introducing their first formal bug bounty program. So folks, I'm sure, have been reporting bugs to ConnectWise for a long time, but they now have a bug bounty program that will be going into effect in the future. They've developed it in conjunction with a big bug bounty platform operator called HackerOne. And obviously it's just designed to kind of crowdsource the task of looking for weaknesses in this system, or all of the systems that they offer. So a number of different things going on. Those are on top of some of the measures that they implemented before that I was talking about. They've had a SOC Type 2 audit performed. They've introduced their security trust site where they're sharing information, in an effort to be transparent about security issues that have been reported to them. That they have a series of security bulletins that will be partially informed by the bug bounty program coming later this year. So they're doing a whole lot of work there. I'm sure, there are other vendors who will be speaking with us in the media about similar kinds of efforts they have underway. And, it's an encouraging sign, basically, that companies like ConnectWise that understand they are being targeted right now, and that's a big risk, not only for them, but obviously for the MSPs who use their stuff. Companies like that are taking that much more seriously now.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, setting that standard and showing a leadership role in moving forward and showing the organization itself, ConnectWise, kind of entering into this increased level of maturity, right? Bug bounty programs, secure by design, the focus on making certain that their coders and developers are being trained and mentored and implementing these services and solutions that can watch the code as it's being written and look into databases to make sure that there aren't any vulnerabilities. If there are some potentials, offering different ways to execute or decode that functionality. I think those are all traits, Rich, of that you think about when you think about giant corporations, the Googles, the Microsofts of the world. So it's really heartening to see ConnectWise really step up and assume that mantle and become just a great example for other vendors in the MSP industry to really follow.
Yeah, and you touch on something there that I spoke about when we were talking about that initial report about ConnectWise Control. I mentioned in that show that once upon a time I worked at Microsoft, and I was actually there when their systems were having a series of very, very serious security problems, and they launched their Trustworthy Computing Initiative. And basically they, somewhat belatedly at Microsoft, acknowledged that security can't just be a priority, a consideration. It has to be the first one.
Right.
Ultimately, from a longer term perspective, the company has sunk. And I had said, we really need to start seeing some of these managed services tools makers think along those lines. And, a quote that I got from Tom Greco, their director of information security over there in the course of researching this story, I asked him, where does security rank now against some of the other considerations that a software maker naturally focuses on: getting products to market quickly, convenience for the end user. And he said security is equal to, right now, UI and functionality, that it's right up there on the same plane with the convenience of the interface and meeting feature requests from MSP partners. And you can decide for yourself if they've cleared the bar of making security job number one, but clearly they have significantly elevated it in terms of everything they're thinking about with respect to products.
And that's really threading a fine needle, right, to deliver the right amount of security that doesn't negatively impact the user experience or productivity and efficiency. And that's always been the challenge that the security engineers have faced in really promoting the need for security, because there's also the business concerns and the productivity concerns and the user experience concerns. So it's art and science, when you're really looking at it, and to deliver something that is meeting the security needs, but also meeting the productivity needs and the business needs of users and MSPs. I mean, it's a challenge.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, there's almost always risk attached to pretty much anything you do, certainly as a software developer, but even really just in business. And the difficulty is figuring out how much risk and how do you weigh that risk against the potential upside. And so, yeah, I'm sure there are some very difficult conversations happening at companies like ConnectWise where they have to kind of think their way through that. But, Eric, speaking of things that a lot of folks watching this broadcast right now are going to have to think their way through, we were kind of alluding to the coronavirus before. That is going to change the way some MSPs are working with their customers right now, and that is your tip of the week.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing it from all sectors of business today. I mean, if you haven't received 100 emails from, folks that you do business with, either on a business level or a personal level, about what they're doing, for their part to address concerns about, COVID-19, the coronavirus. I mean, we're getting them from, you know, I must have gotten 40 or 50 emails this week, all from different suppliers and vendors. I mean, from travel companies, airlines, Uber, Lyft, even like, food delivery services. I mean, it's just amazing. Sit here and watch my inbox, and here comes another one, another one, another one. Like, they stack right behind each other. What are we all doing? And even professional services organizations that that support my company, right, are saying, hey, here's what we're doing. And one of the big shifts is, and I was really glad to see this, was the adoption of this work from home policy. So traditional businesses that we wouldn't even consider even thinking about having their workforce work remotely are doing that now, and I'm getting those messages. So this is really the tip of the week. I mean, if you have the opportunity and the ability, do your part. I mean, allow your staff to work remotely if you can support the needs of your customers. And now, with a lot of businesses kind of closing down and things like that, we're seeing a lot of new service requests from the partners that I'm working with directly, asking for VPN setups for these remote workers. So this is happening right now. So, tip of the week is, hey, if you haven't already, adapted your business model so that your technicians can deliver service from anywhere, there's no better time to do that. Whether that means, getting them a VoIP phone that they can have at, wherever they live, and a headset, and the ability to securely access your systems and securely remote into your clients' environments. Once you set that up, you'll always be ready at a moment's notice to deliver service this way. And I'm not saying shift your model to be this way all the time, but once that is set up, there are a couple of additional benefits, even beyond the coronavirus issue. I'm working with a client right now, Rich, who has a huge backlog of service tickets. And I said, well, do the technical team have the ability to work from home? Yeah, they do, but we don't really, ask them to do that very often. Well, let's put together an incentive and a rewards program so, they can leave the office and work an extra, hour or two, in the evening or early in the morning or on the weekends, and let's get that backlog taken care of. Now, obviously, that, has to, those tickets, have to be able to be worked typically without an end user in the mix, but still there is a percentage of tickets that we get that we can do that with. So there's a lot of benefit from doing this, and there's really no downside. So this is an opportunity for the MSP and the IT industry to also make a shift, right? And say, oh, well, we should have this capability whenever we need it. And I hate to say it, but these things happen. I mean, this is not the last time there will be some sort of some sort of an outage, or some sort of a, really harsh strain of flu or something else that is going to keep people home. And if those users are working from home, they're going to need support as well. So why don't we support our workforce and enable our workforce to do the same thing?
Yeah, great point, great topic. And I have a few thoughts on that come up. So first of all, this is a dimension of business continuity. In this industry, we hear the words business continuity and immediately think about what happens if the server goes down. But business continuity is also what happens if the office burns down, or if everybody has to work from home because of a public health crisis. So a complete business continuity plan will account for this kind of issue that we're dealing with now. And if you don't have one, you need to have one. And that goes for your customers too. I've been speaking all week with MSPs who tell me that they're hearing from their clients in much bigger numbers about, remote work. Help me get my workforce set up to work from home. So my guess is a lot of the people watching right now have already gotten those calls. They're already sort of on top of this. But if you are not already in a proactive way reaching out to your customers and helping them get ready for a remote work scenario, now is a really great time to do that. And the thing that these MSPs I've been speaking to tell me that the customers are not asking them about, but should be, is how to enable the workforce to do their job remotely and securely. So you need to be thinking about the security dimension of the fact that there are going to be a lot of people, essentially dialing in from home, as we used to say, to connect to the office. And you want to make sure that they're doing that in a secure way, or you're going to have an enormous problem on top of the issues that everybody's already dealing with as it is.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I mean, again, it's incumbent upon us to deliver secure business continuity to our clients and customers. And if they don't have that awareness, then, it's our responsibility to heighten that awareness and get them to agree to move forward. And if they want you to do things that, allow them an insecure or unsecure connections and access to company data, you're the last line of defense, right? It's okay to say no. Okay, just remember that. It's okay to say no to protect your customers and their data, even though they have a different opinion.
Well, we have got time for just one more story this week. And, admittedly, it may not seem as if there's such a thing as a lighter side to the coronavirus issue, but the closest thing that I've come across, at least, is this last story here, which comes to us from the UK. In fact, an amusement park or amusement place in the UK called Chapman's Funland in Bridlington, East Yorkshire, where they have modified one of their machines. So these machines in old-fashioned arcades where there's like a metal claw and you're kind of trying to pick up a prize or something like that. This guy has modified his machine so that what you're trying to pick up is a roll of toilet paper. Now, you may have noticed, certainly here in Seattle, I have noticed, there's still toilet paper out there. It's a little bit harder to get. Here, it may or may not have something to do with the fact that a lot of people are increasingly scared poopless. They need more toilet paper, but clearly people are prioritizing the acquisition of toilet paper. And these folks here in the UK now are putting your eagerness, your desire for more toilet paper to the test. You want another roll? Go ahead and prove it with this test of skill.
I can just imagine that being the beginning of Carnival Row, where every game is centered somehow around personal hygiene and toilet paper.
That's right. That's right. So, what this guy needs to do is set up a second machine with hand sanitizer in it, and we'll have a crowd around the block. Well, that is all the time we've got this week for you on the 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you very much for joining us. If you like the show, you'd like to see some past episodes, keep up with future ones if they become available, the thing you want to do is go to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube and subscribe. Make sure you click that little bell if you want to get notifications when the new episodes go up. To read more or a greater detail about some of the security efforts they're into at ConnectWise right now, as long as all sorts of great industry news and business growth advice for your company. Place to go is ChannelProNetwork.com. We've got great content for you there every single day of the week. To learn more about Eric and the work that he does with his clients, your destination should be ErickSimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So once again, folks, thank you very much for joining us. We will be back here next week with another episode of the show. Until then, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.